right. Welcome to the Indie Corner, where we talk about all things independent comics. I'm Mikey.
I'm Matt.
I'm Rebecca.
And today, people are back at it again. Another episode of the Indie Corner presents Transformers: More Than Meets the Eye. We're discussing Volume 2, which is going to cover issues 4 to 8. And today with us, we got a special guest from the Soon to Shield, a young artist, a young animator in the making, and another young Transformers fan. Fletcher, how you doing, Fletcher?
I'm doing pretty good, Mikey. I'm just like you said, I'm a big Transformers fan. I've been collecting figures again from the Legacy line, and I figure I just want to see Tarn in action. So yeah.
All right, but before we take it off, though, Fletcher, we gotta ask: how have you read these Transformers comics? Are you familiar with them, or?
I'm familiar with the basic story, and I've researched a lot about the characters, but I've not read More Than Meets the Eye. Not a single issue. So I'm going into the whole story, or the deep parts of the story, completely blind.
All right, so you're like with me and Matt, because me and Matt also are newcomers. Rebecca's the expert. She's the hardcore fan that actually took the time to read these books. Yeah. All right, that's great. So happy to have you aboard, Fletcher. It's gonna be. Hope you have fun while we're on here. Rebecca.
Hopefully this isn't too confusing. If it is, you can go back and watch episode 1. Speaking of which, before we start, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who watched the last episode in the clips and left a like or a comment. We also got a comment about Wrong's name. Apparently it's a pun on psychiatrist Carl Jung.
I don't even know who it is. I didn't know who that was. I was like, who is that? And I didn't even bother to look it up. So, but thanks for that. That was informative.
And apparently he does have a toy.
Good. He has a toy too.
Good. Oh, good. I'm glad he does.
Oh,
my God. Right. So on to the issues we're reading.
What?
What?
Never mind. It was a dumb joke anyway.
Okay. It's fine. It's fine, Matt.
All right. On to the issues we're reading. We're going to start with More Than Meets the Eye number 4 here. All right. Let me get to my notes. All right. So we open with a journal entry from an Autobot named First Aid, who you'll notice I'm pointing to over here. Again, as we said off screen, there's a lot of red and white guys in this issue.
Oh, Lord.
It can be very hard to keep track of.
I'll say this. It took me a minute to realize that there was a Transformer named First Aid. I thought they were talking about just like the concept of First Aid, not that it was someone's name. So it took me like 2 or 3 minutes to like realize it while I was reading it.
Yep.
Yeah, it helps to know like who the characters actually are, and I think in these issues there's also in the back of the book like portraits of what the characters' heads look like, so you can kind of match them if that helps at all.
Okay.
All right, but anyway, this is First Aid. He's a nurse stationed at Delphi, which, if you can recall, is one of the places that was mentioned in the warning from the first issue, going back to last week a little bit. So he works there with Ambulon, who is this one I'm circling. He's not super important. He's like the ward manager of the hospital. And this is Pharma, who looks very much like Ratchet. So pay attention to these little yellow things on his head, because that's how I tell him apart, especially in the close-ups.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like the head doctor there. So like I said, don't feel bad if you get confused, because it's very confusing when you first read it. And even when you go back and read it. All right. Anyway, so Delphi is a hospital stationed right at the edge of Decepticon territory, more specifically the DJD, which is the Decepticon Justice Division. And they're basically like a Decepticon super torture squad. So one day, 2 Decepticons who are essentially seeking asylum show up. And because of the Autobot code, the doctors are basically obligated to bring them in, even though Pharma really hates Decepticons. One thing that eases their fears, though, is both of them seem to have the part of them that lets them transform removed.
That I thought was weird. I was like, it's like they have an organ that makes them transform. Like, it's not like
T-Cogs.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a plot device, but you just have to go with it.
It really felt that way.
So as they're staying there, it seems like something's wrong with them, but we don't get to learn what happens first. As First Aid ends his journal to deal with other patients. So back on the last light, Swerve's got his bar opened and he's speaking with Ratchet. Again, for another red and white guy, Swerve is this one, Ratchet is this one.
Right.
Like I said, a lot of red and white guys in this issue.
Yeah.
So Swerve serves him a tiny free drink to celebrate the opening, which Ratchet drops since his hands keep freezing up. He goes on to explain that you can't just build replacement hands like Rodimus's arms. You basically, and he says this later in the issue too, you basically have to be born with like doctor robot hands. However, the main reason Ratchet is here is because him and Swerve are both subscribed to the same like newsletter basically, and they received a weird data log the other night. So Ratchet realized it's from Delphi and it's giving death rate statistics, which seem to have gone up, plateau, and gone up again, and plateau again. Rinse and repeat, you know. So he wants to make a house call and see what's going on there.
Okay.
That's such a weird newsletter. Like that's such a strange newsletter to get every month.
I got a question. Can I ask questions?
You can ask questions.
So, what is the Lost Light functional at the moment?
Yeah, I mean it's like a ship. They're just like somewhere in space.
Yeah, they're just cruising.
Is Ratchet's plan to leave the Lost Light, go to Delphi, and then go back to the Lost Light?
Yes, I think they have like I guess little ships that you can like take off the main ship and like come back.
They don't really show it, but like it's just it's kind of implied that way.
Yeah, the way they get there is not important. We're getting like stuck on the I don't know minutia or whatever of the story here.
I suppose.
All right. So elsewhere on the ship, Ultra Magnus, who's the blue one, and Rodimus, who's another red
one.
But he has orange to break him up.
Yeah, he's got like orange, yellow, other colors, but he's still red and a little bit white. So they're discussing what to do about Tailgate, who, if you remember from our last volume, ended it with saying he wanted to be a Decepticon. So Rodimus is like, well, I don't think he can like legally become a Decepticon, so I'm not really sure we can do anything about it, especially since now like the war is over. So basically, he tells Ultra Magnus just chill out and leave it to him. All right, back to the main plot here. So we're with Ratchet, Drift, and also another guy named Pipes, who's thankfully not red and white, but I don't have him in this screenshot here. So they're on their way down to the hospital. They're skiing down a mountain, and they're talking about how scary the DJD are. And Ratchet asked Drift if he's afraid of them since he used to be a Decepticon. And Drift is saying, like, why would I be afraid? Or, sorry, I read that wrong. Would I be standing here if the DJD bothered me in the slightest? And Ratchet's like, well, people literally, like, beg me to kill them instead of, like, having to maybe deal with them. But whatever you say.
Thing is, like, this conversation literally was making me, like, amped up for when, like, we actually see, like, some of the DJD because they're, like, essentially the SS to the Autobots, basically.
Yeah, they're like a secret police force, except
they're not good dudes, to say the least.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
All right. So they make it to the hospital, and it's blocked off with a large X on the door. A large red X, never a good sign. But despite this, Pipes, who's just feeling, a little quirky today, decides he's just going to ram straight into a morgue, basically. So, of course, Ratchet's like, you fucking idiot. Why would you do that? That was the universal plague symbol, and now he is standing in dead people.
Yeah, it's pretty grody.
So gross.
All right.
Now you said plague symbol, yes? Or
yes, it's just a red X.
It's an X, yeah.
I thought it might have to do something with cosmic rust or something.
Well, we'll get to this in a second, but the thing they're dealing with is called like red rust or whatever. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
So we see this guy was sneaking behind Pipes, and Drift, who Pipes is the blue one here, now that we can see him. And Drift proceeds to immediately slice this guy into pieces.
Like a boss.
I also just put this in because I like this joke. So the guy sliced up here. His name was Prowl, and if you recall, there was another Transformer also named Prowl, so he changed his name to Dent. And they're like, why would you call yourself Dent? That's a terrible name. And they say, yeah, well, all the best names are taken.
That was funny. That was really funny.
All right, so then First Aid pops out and he says that guy was actually one of his patients he was trying to track down, but it's a little too late to do anything about him now that he's been sliced up. And he also marks Pipes here as infected, and he explains that the virus is spread through physical contact and can potentially lie dormant for days.
It's COVID.
All right, so meanwhile, back on the Lost Light, rewind. Who's this one? And Tailgate, who's this one?
He's so adorable.
Yeah.
So they bring Tailgate in to talk to Rodimus, and they decide the best way to talk about him wanting to be a Decepticon is to show him the highlights of the war he missed in about 11.3 seconds and let him decide what he wants to do from there.
I was saying, I love the fact that they have to like literally show like he's like a child is like, this is what an Autobot looks like.
Well,
this is what a Decepticon.
Well, he's like the point of view character, I guess.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, showing someone your enemy's war crimes greatest hits collection does numbers on persuading them not to choose that side. So after this, we see him crush up the Decepticon badge here. And then skipping around a little bit. So as you can imagine, Tailgate's pretty mad about this. So he goes up to Cyclonus here and he's like, dude, what the fuck? You made me look like an idiot when you knew the Decepticons were the bad guys. And Cyclonus is like, I just told you what happened. The rest is kind of on you. And then they fight. But when I say fight, I basically mean that Tailgate throws one punch and then immediately gets his shit rocked.
He gets fucking swatted. Yeah. It's hilarious.
I kind of love that scene.
All right. So again, back to the main story on Delphi. First Aid continues to explain that whatever is going on, they think doctors are immune to it, and that 5 days ago they heard a loud explosion and people started dropping like flies after that. We also learned that older patients don't show symptoms like crying rust, and that someone is in an eternal coma, as they call it, but First Aid has a theory called jump starting about being able to bring them back.
I love the concept of jump. It is hilarious. Well, I know you'll explain it like later when it happens, but I was like, this is all the puns. I love it so much.
This book loves its puns.
Oh my god.
And I am skipping over a lot, so if you want me to fill any more blanks, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to try and fill them in more.
Okay.
No problem.
Right. So as they're talking, they find the head doctor, Pharma, has been stuck in quarantine since the Big Bang, as they call it, in a soundproof room. As they're trying to communicate with him, we see him carve a message into his hand. And they turn around and see that Pipes is not looking so good.
Oh boy.
So as Pipes closes in on Drift does this cool little jump here and knocks him out with his sword. I don't have that screenshot. I thought I did.
Drift is just awesome. Just give me more stuff of Drift being awesome in the next issues, please. I love it so much.
And then Ambulon, who's the one who's in the center here, grabs him and they run off to help him. Unfortunately, while they're doing this, Drift got infected.
Yeah.
Lord.
All right. So suddenly we see that Farmer was thrown into a wall into the room they're now in, and 2 Decepticons from the beginning of the issue, the ones who were seeking asylum, show up with guns. Ratchet tries to talk them down, but since no one really has time to fight right now, anyway, and First Aid interrupts, holding jumper cables, and says he has a friend there begging to differ. So we end this issue with the reveal of Fortress Maximus. For the purposes of this, I'm just going to call him Fort Max because it takes less syllables.
Yeah.
Yeah. For some reason here... sorry.
I was just going to say, so he's another brick shit house of a Transformer, and he's fucking pissed. So that's the end of the issue.
I love it.
And he's not a Titan class figure this time. He's just a normal sized robot.
He's a pretty big guy. I don't know what that means in toy terms.
Oh, for an earlier iteration of Fortress Maximus, he was this massive, like a city-sized transformer. I mean, that's a different story for another day. But yeah.
All right. So thoughts, feelings, comments, anything like that on the issue?
I love the fact that this is my Grant. I love how this is like my favorite like page in terms of how it's drawn. Again, respect to artists that love that draw mechs and robots real good, because I could never. That's too much work. But it's just that it ends with this freaking Dwayne the Rock Johnson motherfucking looking transformer about to wreck some fools. I thought it was so good, and I was like who comes up with the name what kind of name is Fortress Maximus? Jesus Christ, like.
Dude, it would be so hard to come up with names for Transformers.
But like but it fits because this man's a freaking brick wall, and like I love him. But
I know they didn't come up with the design for this, but I do love Fort Max's design. I like the helmet with the horns. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, but I thought this issue was it was good. It was fun. Again, love me some Drift. Just give I know you mentioned that like there is a Drift like mini series, which I hopefully will do. But I did like Drift in this, and how like he tried his best to be as cool as possible, but still getting infected anyway. Thought that was great.
Yeah.
Tailgate was nice as well. Sorry, Fletcher. Go ahead.
I don't know. We could say that Drift got deadlocked.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But,
if that joke is lost on anyone, that was his old name when he was a Decepticon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't get that.
I figured you did.
But yeah, I also did like the fact that because last volume with Tailgate, that was like the big mystery of how is he gonna? I expect him to have a huge arc about how he's gonna be conflicted about dealing with him either being an Autobot or a Decepticon, but no, it gets literally dealt with in 4 pages. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that. I was kind of disappointed by that. It makes sense though. He's on an Autobot ship surrounded by Autobots. If he says I want to be a Decepticon, they're gonna go, no, you don't, and they're gonna it just makes sense that it was resolved this way. But I was kind of I assume it happened for a reason, and it's going to go somewhere either through his relationship with Cyclonus and how that changes, or maybe he'll be conflicted again later on, or both. I don't know. But the way this was resolved, I thought wasn't very satisfying. It was more satisfying when Cyclonus backhanded him. That was amazing. I loved that page.
It's funny because he literally you expect freaking Tailgate small ass to just be able to punch Cyclonus, but it's such a weak punch. This man just gets swatted.
Dude, he comes up to the guy's knees. There's nothing he can really do.
Hilarious.
But that aside, yeah, I really appreciate again you going through the issue, because I could not follow who was who. These entire first 3 issues that cover the Delphi story.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of trouble with every character being red and white. So
I mean, she did warn us.
Whoever decided, we're gonna do an issue where everyone's red and white. That wasn't it. I don't know who the colorist was on that, but and I know it wasn't their fault, but do better.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, might as well just include all the Protectobots while you're at it.
May as well include all the Protectobots.
They're all red and white.
But Ambulon, we'll talk more about him later. I like Ambulon.
You like Ambulon? I mean,
we'll talk about that in a different issue. I think I said everything I had to say about this one. I enjoyed it.
Also, just before we move on, listen, man, they got cyber COVID, dude. That's kind of wild. I never. Who comes up with the ideas? Oh yes, Transformers, they have their own diseases too. That's just you never expect that from an alien race of just robots. You expect them to get sick or whatever, but nah, they get rust disease. It's funny. It's funny to me.
I will say one thing. Going back to what Matt was saying about Tailgate. There is, and we'll see this, I'll talk about this more in the next issue too. There is eventually some payoff with his kind of journey of choosing sides, but it's not going to be what you kind of expect it to be.
Ah.
Okay. I like it.
No, we'll see if it actually pays off for you or not. I don't want to like hype something up and you're gonna be like, oh, that was it.
Sure. Fair enough.
All right, moving on. We're on issue 5 now. So picking up right where we left off, we open on Fort Max ripping a dude in two. Insert a joke about jazz in the first movie here.
It's so funny.
I want 2.
I'm gonna put that in the clip. I didn't even think of that. That's hilarious.
It's like so bad, but it's like one of the funniest parts of that movie.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, no, this page is the fact that it started up just straight up rips him in half. I was like, this is so good and it's so well drawn. I was like, wow.
It's very good. All right, so he also kills the other Decepticon, and after that, he kind of starts to calm down a bit. While this is happening, Drift is on the floor dying, and Ambulon is trying to remove the body parts from Fort Max when suddenly Pharma pulls out a gun.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, there it is. I did these slides like 2 weeks ago, so sometimes I forget what I've put in here. But he thinks Ambulon is behind those Decepticons escaping since Ambulon used to be a Decepticon and he's not infected. First Aid points out that Pharma is acting kind of sus. Those Decepticons that he said had their T-Cogs, which is the part that lets them transform, removed, looked like they were able to transform, and that his wounds from their attack looked like they were self-inflicted with a scalpel, not done by somebody else. All right, so then Ratchet is like, okay, Pharma, I need you to turn into a jet. And Pharma says no, prompting Ratchet to kind of spell out what's going on here. So we figure out that the virus is triggered by transforming. First Aid's part that lets him transform is broken, so he can't transform. And Ambulon is part of a combiner, so he turns into a leg.
I
and he
love
has no
that.
reason to transform.
That was so funny. I was like, it's like I just turned into a leg, bro. I was just like,
I love that. I love that. You would assume Ambulon comes from ambulance, and
Yeah.
it doesn't. It comes from ambulate, and he's a leg. That's hilarious.
It's so
that is
funny.
amazing.
Yeah, so the only reason that Pharma wouldn't transform is because he knows it will make him infected.
Mhm.
So the jig is up, and to escape, Pharma blows up the life support section of the hospital, sending everyone into a frenzy. Drift tells Ratchet that if Pharma's working with the DJD and they're on their way to Delphi, that he should kill him, which Ratchet declines. And as they start to stabilize people, they tell Ratchet that he's free to chase after Pharma. So back on the ship, Tailgate is in Ultra Magnus's office, and he's like, listen, I made a mistake, but I'm too cute to be a Decepticon, so now I'm like 100% committed to Team Autobot. Whatever it takes, I just want to like belong, you know? And I love these scenes where they're talking to. I think they're so funny.
they're funny, yeah. He's just down bad. He's just down bad. It's great.
So Magnus is like, okay, if you're serious about this, I'll help you study. We'll start by going through all 10,000 pages of the Autobot code line by line, buddy. We'll get you through it, you know?
Yeah, I love this scene.
Yeah.
Their relationship is a lot of fun.
All right. While we're also back to the Lost Light subplots, we check in with First Aid as well. He's in Wrong's office, and he's like, I know it sounds crazy, but I have great hearing, and ever since the Spark Eater incident from last episode, I've heard something that sounds like it's coming from below the ship, even though there shouldn't be anything below the part of the ship we saw last issue, but I've managed to record something. So they play it, and while it doesn't sound like anything at first, when they speed it up, it sounds like a voice is saying, me kill over and over again.
Is the Autobot Blaster that's on the panels? He has a head that looks like Blaster.
This is First Aid. Blaster is also around, but he doesn't really matter.
I don't think that's First Aid. I think that's Red Alert.
Oh, I completely mixed that up. Again, another red and white guy.
You see the problem, IDW?
This is Red Alert. My bad,
Okay.
I misspoke.
I see. His head just kind of looks a lot like Blaster's.
They all look alike.
They all look the same.
We gotta change up the color schemes here.
Might as well make him twin cast.
This is
Right.
last week or 2 weeks ago, I guess. I said that reading this book reminded me an awful lot of reading X-Men. Which is true, except it would be like if every X-Man looked the same.
Yeah, if like every X-Men looked like Wolverine.
Yes.
Or variations of Wolverine.
Yes.
So they're all
exactly.
hairy, short people. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah. The beginning of this, it's really bad. As we go on, though, you get more characters that look more different. So it kind of helps because, like, we're not going to focus on him very long, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Right.
true.
And some of the other red and white characters are going to, like, fade out of this story, which helps too.
Yeah.
All right. So back to Tailgate being bored to death. They're going over the Autobot code, Lied My Line, like I mentioned. There's one section of it that reminds him of the robots chanting 1984 from the last volume. When Tailgate asks about that paragraph, Magnus says it's redundant and not to worry about it, but it has to do with something called thought warfare. I don't know what he means by that, but I guess it's important.
Okay.
All right, back to Ratchet. He's found and confronted Pharma, but his infection has also begun to kick in.
He's rusting.
Yeah.
Look at all that rust.
So we get Pharma's villain monologue / tragic backstory. So the leader of the DJD is addicted to transforming and keeps burning through his T-Cogs. So to keep the base safe, Pharma has been organ harvesting, basically. It gives him ones from dead patients as protection. At first, it was just people he couldn't save anyway, but as demand increased, so did the amount of people that Pharma let die or killed. So by this point, he was in too deep, and closing down the hospital would have raised too many questions.
Yeah.
We also learned that the 2 Decepticons we saw earlier were combiners who turned into a sound bomb that spread the virus to anyone within earshot, which is why Pharma was in a soundproof room. Ratchet says his plan is stupid, which it is. He's like, okay, if you have this bomb, why wouldn't you just detonate it by the bad guy who can't stop transforming when it triggers a disease that starts when you transform? And Pharma's like,
yeah.
Oh, they wouldn't risk it, but it's just to justify like bullshit, you know?
Yeah, of course. Did they say who the leader of the DJD is?
No, but we'll get to that in these next couple issues.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so then Ratchet's like, okay, well, at least now I know you deserve what's coming to you. And he reveals that Pharma has been standing in this rust the whole time
He's been standing in his rust.
Meaning he's now infected as well. So he says he knows Pharma is smart enough to make a vaccine for it and to hand it over to him.
Mm-hmm.
So they fight and eventually take it outside. Pharma drops the single vaccine in the struggle. Ratchet says Pharma died a long time ago, but he's got nothing left to lose. And just then his arm pops off, sending Pharma backwards and hanging onto the edge of, I guess this is a ship above a cavern. Ratchet says he can either transform and become infected or fall to his death.
Right.
You forgot to mention that Ratchet Kid also has a hologram of a white man for some reason, and it's just like, I didn't know Transformers could do this, and this is very like this random as shit. But I'm for it though.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. That'll come back in other issues too, because you know it's fun when you get to see the human-like versions of them, even though like a lot of them don't make sense.
Yeah,
right.
All right, so Pharma's about to go for one final attack when Drift pops up and cuts his arms off at the wrists, sending him plummeting. Ugh. So we learn that Ratchet was able to save the vaccine and all the survivors come back to the Lost Light. First Aid gets offered the position of Chief Medical Officer, and Ratchet gets a new pair of hands. The end.
Yeah.
I also like how this issue is called How Ratchet Got His Hands Back.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice that. It's like even when I read it and it said Ratchet got his hands back, I'm like, when the fuck did he change his hands? And then I just
And
realized,
he ends it on a pun too.
Oh my god, this book.
So, any thoughts?
Pharma's a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing, right? I like First Aid. I thought First Aid was a really cool, introduction to him, and I'm looking forward to seeing like him when he shows up in the other issues. I thought it was a nice character. Ratchet, I thought Ratchet shined as well in this. The fact that like he did acknowledge Farmer's bullshit, I thought was great,
Yeah.
and that he took Farmer's biggest flaw, which was monologuing, to his advantage, and
Every villain has to monologue. It's like a requirement.
And he used that to get his rust in him. Like that's just I thought it was great.
I love when Ratchet was like, "Yo, I fought Megatron. I'm not scared of you."
Like he was like, "I fought Megatron, Starscream. I forgot the other one is like kill something. Another. But it's like, why would I be scared of you, bro? Come on now. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I liked Pharma. I thought he was a really good villain, and I don't know how he doesn't die after this, but I do kind of hope he comes back. I would love to see him again.
I won't spoil anything, but there is a chance you might see him again.
Good shit. I would love
that shit. That doesn't make any sense. Come on.
He would be great as a recurring villain, specifically for Ratchet. That'd be awesome.
I also would agree. I feel like okay, it would be fun if every character, even the insignificant ones, got a villain to like fuck with for an issue. Like Drift should get a villain. I don't know, but like that'd be a fun thing to play around with in the book. I hope that happens in future issues.
Perhaps Bludgeon.
But yeah, I thought this was a fun issue, and this is the end of that story, right?
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the end of the Delphi thing.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I like this little Delphi story, even if it was hard to tell who the characters were. But we've talked about the death.
And question the little like horn on the front indicates that like that's an Autobot that's like a medical like bot, like a doctor.
That doesn't do anything. You got to remember these are from toys that all share molds because they're cheaply made.
Because like my headcanon was
probably
like,
a byproduct of that.
Yeah, because my headcanon was like, oh, like if you're a doctor, like you would have that on to signify that's like your role. But again, like First Aid doesn't have one, but First Aid's not a doctor. So.
Yeah, no. Well, it seems like if you're a doctor or doctor adjacent, it's indicated by being red and white.
That's mostly onto something there, I think. At least in this comic. All right. So moving on to issue 6 here.
Yeah.
So we begin the issue with Fort Max in therapy. His tragic backstory is that he was tortured for a very long time by a Decepticon named Overlord, pictured here with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Not Overlord. So Fort Max's backstory was he was a prison ward on this planet called Garrus 9, which was just like the prison planet when Overlord came in and took over. And if you want to read about it, there's a mini series called Last Stand of the Wreckers, which will tell you all about that. Okay. But anyway, he's in therapy, and as you can imagine, he doesn't really want to talk about this experience. But his sessions are mandatory since he seems a little bit messed up, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Cut to Swerve's bar. A bunch of people are just sitting around talking. One of them asks Swerve how he's allowed to have the place open. And he's like, funny you asked that. I'm not.
Yeah. Typical Swerve being out of pocket, as he always is.
Yeah. So Tailgate comes in and complains about how boring learning the Autobot code is and how they're going through the whole thing, and someone mentions that there's actually an abridged version he could have learned instead. And also Ultra Magnus then barges in and grabs Swerve, who's in big trouble now. All right, so then we got a Trailbreaker, who is this one. He's not important. And he's talking about how overrated Fort Max is, but then he walks in to the bar. And everyone knows his backstory, but they also know that there's something not right about Fort Max right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then he blasts pipes.
Yeah.
That was so. That came out of nowhere. I was like, oh my god, like, what's going on?
All right, so cut to the incident room here. Fort Max has locked Rung's office up and is now holding him as a hostage, basically. But they can't put more lives in danger by knocking down the door. They're able to patch into a security cam, they realize there's a third person And
The
Whirl
mental
being
ones,
Whirl,
yeah.
he of course has to taunt and egg on Fort Max into more violence.
Uh-huh.
Rung manages to broadcast audio to the command station so Rodimus and co can now hear what's going on there. Fort Max is upset because essentially he's been told that people higher up than him care about him, but it took them over 3 years to do anything when he and other Autobots were being tortured and held captive on a prison planet for 3 years.
Man, the Autobots are fucking dicks, man.
Like I said in the other episode, everyone in IDW is more or less a war criminal.
That's
Yeah.
true.
And since he has a big gun and 2 hostages, he demands that Rodimus take him back to Cybertron. He realizes he's being recorded also and rips out the mic, which was built into Rung's thumb. So we also get a panel later of Rung's thumb just on the ground. But Whirl's like, listen, I'm getting bored. Can you just kill us already? And Fort Max is like, okay, seriously, what's wrong with you, dude? And to save Rung from being blasted, Whirl reveals his tragic backstory. He used to be a successful watchmaker, which was pretty much unheard of. And when he refused to pay protection money, his business was destroyed and his life went downhill.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Do we have a question there?
Yeah, well, this is something I do know about the IDW universe about this, but wasn't Cybertron at this point under a corrupt caste system where Transformers are locked into positions based on their vehicle modes, and Whirl was sort of a contrarian to that when he became a watchmaker?
That's exactly it, actually. So you're on the right page there.
And he does read the wiki religiously. Jesus, like I do.
Yeah, and then he also knocked up a Megatron so much before the war, and he's mentally
That's a little
insane.
bit of a spoiler, so we're not going to talk about that part just
It's fine.
yet.
I'll
Okay?
forget it. It's all good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I thought it was earlier.
Yeah, like I said, you haven't read it, so you don't know everything, so it's all good. All right, so as they're talking about this, Rung uses one of his model ships also to signal towards the windows of the ship. Cut to Swerve and Rewind, who are outside the ship replacing rivets. Swerve's there as a punishment for owning a bar, while Rewind is there for bringing snuff on board, which was the discs we saw him buy off screen for like one panel last issue.
Mm-hmm.
They get a call from Rodimus saying that they're going to need them to take a little walk. So inside, Fort Max asked Whirl why he was kicked off the Wreckers, who were just like, I guess they'd be like Navy SEALs, kind of. They're just like a combat team, I guess, of Autobots. And he says it's because he tried to kill a comatose Springer, who was like one of the leaders of that group. Then Whirl's like, okay, that's enough backstory for now. Fort Max gets even more angry then as he realizes that the ship's not moving at all. Back in the control room, they still don't have audio, so they can only watch and guess what's being said. Ratchet calls from the med bay where Pipes and some of the others who got shot are and says that Fort Max is only shooting people who remind him of Overlord. Outside the ship, Rewind is gearing up to take a non-lethal shot at Fort Max, but Rodimus comes up with a new plan. Rewind gives Swerve the gun and is ordered to project something. So it's footage of Fort Max being tortured, and seeing this causes him to shut down, basically.
So fucked.
It's very fucked up.
Yeah.
So even though Fort Max is basically out of it now, Rodimus orders Swerve to still take the shot. And shout out to our boy Swerve, because he whiffs.
Dude, done.
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
So Rung gets shot in the head by Swerve, and while this is happening, Whirl also takes the opportunity to stab Fort Max and knock him out. So finally, we end this issue with Red Alert, and we see that he's digging in places that he shouldn't have after hearing that noise, and discovers what's been in the basement, which, if you remember, was also one of the warnings mentioned in issue 1.
Oh, right.
It's Overlord. End of issue 6.
The fuck.
Overlord's a scary guy.
Yeah. I love this issue. I thought this issue was so much fun. I love Fort Max's little PTSD meltdown.
Yeah.
And then the way they stop him is so messed up, and then Swerve misses and blows Wrong's head off. That escalation is so good.
It's
Swerve got ahead of himself.
I saw someone make a clip of like that scene, but it's the like audio from like Always Sunny where they shoot Charlie.
Oh, that's good.
I also agree with Matt. This issue was
Great.
It had a very strong start, and it just kept getting like worse and worse in terms of like how far it escalated. I did not expect fucking Swerve to freaking miss and get Wrong's head just blown out.
It's
hilarious.
such a good scene.
I cried laughing.
Good.
I thought it was so funny. And also to throw back to the last episode we did, I didn't expect the whole basement thing to be like again was like shown so quickly of like what is it? I thought it was gonna be an overarching mystery that was gonna last a little longer, but I'm happy that they showed it, and I didn't see Overlord coming at all. I thought that was a really good twist with it. But yeah, man, freaking Fort Max, great introduction, but then him losing his marbles and just murdering everyone, that was so just out of left field. I loved it. So
I love him. I think I'm really excited to see more of Fort Max.
I feel like they tackle like the emotional bit of it really good in this issue too. Like you understand like why he's having his episode and why he's upset.
Yeah,
it kind of shows how important Rung's role was as a and on the ship. PTSD is no joke, even with robots. So
yeah, and I was thinking about it too the other day. Like Rung's role in this is kind of more plot device than a character. Like he's more there to get other characters to talk about their feelings than he is to like be a character himself a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Speaking of getting characters to talk, Whirl.
Dude, Whirl, bro.
Also,
the Deadpool of this comic. I love it.
Yeah, I liked him. I liked him before, and now I got in his backstory a little bit. I like him even more now. I think Whirl's really fun. I really like how he was born. It's like just fucking kill us already.
End me, please. That would make things more interesting if I just died.
This issue was great. Yeah. I think that's everything I had in mind.
I'll say this as a close it off. The world being like the random out of pocket character he is makes me even more convinced and makes me like understand why Cyclonus is eventually going to kill this man one day. But yeah, so yeah, I thought he was very fun.
I like the way he bounced off of Fort Max. I thought they had a fun dynamic while he held him hostage. It was I love this issue. Yeah.
World's the MVP of this.
Very fun hostage situation. Don't get to say that a whole lot.
Yes.
All right, so if we're done with that, then we'll move on to the next issue. And Fletcher, I got some lines for you to read. I just have them on the slides. If you can't see them, then I will Discord you real quick and have you read them off.
I know what this issue is.
Yeah,
Hi,
so
Tarn.
This is issue 7. If you would start here, please.
I've been waiting to do this for so long. Answer me this. What is it about Phase Sixers, Why this tedious tendency to rebel? Take Black Shadow. He was an extraordinary Decepticon. He was. Handpicked by Megatron to sterilize planets ahead of the cyberforming process. He was all but guaranteed a seat on the Conclave. Until, that is, he accepted 500 million Shaniks from the Autobots in exchange for blowing up a fleet of Decepticon worlds. At least now he's Tarn.
And I'm going to cut you off there for a second real quick.
Oh, Tarn.
So this masked guy here is Tarn. He's the leader of the DJD. The other members are Helix, Kaon, Voss, and Thesaurus. I don't think that's how you write
Thesaurus.
Thesaurus.
That's his name. No, you got it right. That's his name. Thesaurus.
Cool. And all of them basically turned into torture devices, and they're currently torturing the Decepticon Black Shadow.
That's so dark. That was so dark and edgy. What the hell?
It's very edgy. Amazingly, Black Shadow has survived up to this point, and he tells Tarn to just get it over with. To which Tarn says, and Fletcher, if you'll pick it up again here.
I don't think you quite appreciate how this works. Our job is to hunt down any Decepticons who, by their actions or inactions, have frustrated the realization of Megatron's goals, and introduce them to a world of unremitting pain. Now, given that you were only partially melted by Helix, and only partially crushed by Thesaurus, I'd have thought that was obvious. But take heart. If word of your preposterously gruesome demise reaches just one hesitant Decepticon and terrifies him into staying the course, then all the pain you suffered would have been worth it.
But the war is over.
But the war's what? The war's over? Oh, Black Shadow. That's sweet. But the war won't be over until Megatron says so, and he'll say nothing until he presides over a society so peaceful that the very notion of conflict is literally inconceivable, as he writes in Towards Peace. My weapon is my burden, a reminder of the path I was forced to take. When the word weapon is emptied of meaning, when the purpose of a weapon is impossible to grasp, when the rejection of my weapon is of significance to no one other than myself, only then shall I remove it from my arm, because only then will I have earned the right to rid myself of burden. I could go on, but listen, have you noticed? I stopped the music. Is that significant? Why, yes. Yes, it is. You're thinking, I've seen what the other four can do, but their leader, with his fine music and his literary quotations and his double fusion cannon, what makes him so special? Here's the thing, they say. I can talk people to death. Weaponized conversation, they say. I don't know, I say. Sounds a bit pretentious. Maybe so, they say. But you can modulate the timbre of your voice so that it falls into step with the pulse of the listener's spark. Well, I say, there is that. And then, by gradually lowering your voice, they say you can coax the spark into giving up. That's what they say. What do you say?
I'm so sorry.
Stand back, everyone. Phase Sixers have a tendency to go. And
Boom. All right, so good job there, Fletcher. A little clap for you.
I was trying to emulate Keith David because Alex Milne said that his ideal voice for Tarn is Keith David.
That's great.
All right. So after that, then with Black Shadow dead, the DJD can check his name off their list and move on to their next target, who is a Decepticon who did the crime of living. Ooh. So back on the Lost Light real quick. We hear from Ratchet that Rung is eventually going to recover by virtue of being James Roberts' OC. And we see that Red Alert is becoming increasingly paranoid and leaves a flash drive with Rung's body with proof that Overlord is on board. And later in this comic, I don't have a picture of it, but we'll later see that some mysterious person also comes and takes that flash drive away.
So are characters having their heads exploded and then being okay a thing?
Some of them go through some very serious things and survive. I'll say that.
Okay. That's still good.
Just go with it, Matt.
Yeah, I can do that.
On to our main plot for this issue. A Decepticon named Fulcrum wakes up surrounded by other Decepticons, and we learn that they assumed he was dead and were going to salvage his corpse for parts. They call themselves exploration specialists, and they consist of Mistfire. Again, I'm pointing here, so pay attention. Who is their leader? Crankcase, who's the grumpy one.
Okay.
Sinister, who is described as the stupidest person in the entire universe. Flywheels, who can't lie without transforming, and Croc, who's a military strategist and the highest ranking Decepticon of the group. So another quick cutaway real fast to Brainstorm and Chrome Dome on the ship. Chrome Dome had stolen Skid's gun while he was drunk and asked Brainstorm to take a look at it. Unfortunately, exploded on Brainstorm before he could take a good look at it, but he managed to learn that there's only room in the gun for 2 cartridges, but he said he doesn't know what it does or why Skid's had it. However, he thinks that it came from the Institute. Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh. All right. Back with the scavengers, as they also call themselves. They're sitting around a campfire. Croc tells Fulcrum how the part of space they're in is basically a Decepticon graveyard. And across thousands of battles, the only difference between the Autobots and the Decepticons is Autobots collect their dead, but that doesn't matter because the war's over now. This confuses Fulcrum, who says, but there's always been a war, and he asks if they won. No one really knows for sure, but they assume that the Autobots won, and they have a kind of realization of, okay, so what do we need now? Then their Autobot campfire starts giving Sinister weird looks, and Croc kills the Straggler, even though, as we just heard, that the war is over.
Yeah.
All right. So the next day, the scavengers are scavenging when Misfire chases what he thinks is the Necrobot, which is kind of like the Cybertronian Grim Reaper, recording the fate of every last Cybertronian. When instead he finds something better, a Decepticon warship.
Oh, that's
Looks-
cool. I
that
never
looks
noticed
so
that the
sick.
ship that the ship is the literal Decepticon insignia.
They're
That's-
very big on their branding, apparently.
Yeah, branding. Their branding game was on point. Apparently.
Then again, Tarn's mask is also the literal Decepticon insignia. So I should have known this.
I love this. I think it looks awesome. The art is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love this.
It's
Yeah.
Rebecca, I have a question though. Will we see an Autobot warship with the Autobot symbol as the ship though in the future?
I don't think so. I don't think their marketing
you don't
team
got
was on
it.
that as much.
They don't got it. They don't. Their branding
No.
must be shit then. Okay, fair enough.
All right, so they split up to explore the ship and find a couple of concerning things. Misfire and Crank. Oh God, I just spit. That was gross. Misfire and Crankcase find the ceiling of one of the hallways is covered in brains. And Croc and Flywheels find a bunch of pods containing half-formed Cybertronians, all missing below their torso. They also find some weird wooden robot that appears to have once been alive. As they explore, they also come to the bizarre conclusion that the ship appears to have bled to death and is covered with some skin-like material. Misfire thinks this is a great opportunity to turn around and run, while Fulcrum thinks they should...
He's smart.
Yeah. While Fulcrum thinks they should explore and learn what's going on since they have nothing better to do with their lives.
He's not smart.
Croc picks up a signal and they find a message from the DJD. One of them has made some sort of transgression. If they hand him over, the other 6 will get to watch them kill him. They freak out, and they also realize that means there's an extra person on board, which they find and quickly uncover is Grimlock, leader of the Dinobots. End of issue 7.
Sorry, I love Grimlock so much.
Yeah, I remember you saying you wanted to see him last issue, so I'm glad you got to see this.
I love Grimlock so much.
The robot T-Rex, man.
If you're a Transformer and you turn into a dinosaur, I love you.
Oh my god.
Yeah, people love, what is it, Beast Wars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anything about.
They were
about
the only ones brave enough to queer code their Megatron, I'll say that.
Oh.
Oh my god.
What? Their Megatron? Is it a different Megatron?
Yes.
It's just a guy who's also named Megatron.
Well, yeah. It's a completely separate character.
Well, okay.
I love Grimlock.
It's in the same. Is it a coincidence?
Okay, here's where I go on my little Beast Wars tangent.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Oh
please.
boy, here we
Beast
go.
Wars
I'm ready.
it follows G1 continuity, but takes place like a couple hundred years in the future. So all of the
Sure.
characters have really dumb animal name puns,
Sure.
except for Optimus and Megatron. Megatron's still Megatron, but he's like a different guy who's also named Megatron. And Optimus, who's also a different guy, is Optimus Primal, and he turns into a gorilla, and it slaps.
He turned into a gorilla?
Yeah.
So what you're trying to tell me is I shouldn't watch Beast Wars.
You
'cause
should
it
watch
sounds
Beast
like
Wars.
nonsense.
No, watch Beast Wars. Once you get past the dated computer
You
animation,
only need to
it's
watch
good.
the first 2 seasons because the 3rd season's a little off the rail. But it's if you like a 90s action cartoon, it's pretty solid.
Yo.
To simply put it, it's just Prime.
But,
Optimus Primal looks like a goon.
I don't know if Matt can watch it though, because there's a rat character in it.
Oof.
Oh.
It's a red flag.
Yeah. It's a robot rat. Maybe I can handle it. So Grimlock is the leader of the
the Dinobots.
Dinobots.
He turned into a
They
T-Rex
turn
and
into
it's awesome.
dinosaurs if you couldn't get it from the name.
Okay.
He turns into a T-Rex that breathes fire and it's fucking dope.
Okay.
But I'll say my thoughts on this issue. I like this issue a lot. The DJD, scary. Tarn, also scary. I love Tarn's design. I love the fact that he's wearing like it's a mask that's like the Decepticon figure like symbol, right? Not his actual head. Okay.
It's a mask.
All right. It would have been funnier if it was his actual head, but like I guess I wouldn't really take him that seriously if it was his head. Love his design, very menacing. Fletcher, great job. You made most of those pages a lot more entertaining now that you've read them, because when I was reading them, I couldn't focus because there's a lot going on. But thank you for that. I loved it.
I could do more of him in the future.
Yay. But yeah, this issue was pretty good. And then those 4 fuck up Decepticons are hilarious. They're like the 3 Stooges if they had another Stooge.
Well, the whole thing with the scavengers is that they are in fact, like, this is a stated fact, is that they're the worst Decepticons in history. That's actually a fact in the comic.
Yeah.
They're just
I got a quote about that for you to read later, Fletcher.
They're just the worst Decepticons that ever existed.
That's so funny.
I like how they were using this guy as a fire.
Yeah, that scene was funny.
That scene was really good.
Like I said, I skipped the scavenger stuff when I first read it. So me reading this now is kind of like the first time I've like actually paid attention to what's going on in that subplot.
Gotcha.
So are the scavengers? You know what? Never mind.
They're not like constantly in the book, but they pop up every once in a while.
Okay. Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to ask.
And I will say that, like, out of all the issues, I think this issue has the best art out of them all, especially that Warship page is fucking incredible, like Matt said before. Yeah, it's.
I'm trying to go back. I think this might be a different artist, but I can't remember.
Well, if whoever it is, if it's still Alex whatever, it is still Alex whatever. Yeah, dude, he's improving. Shit, some Corey Walker shit. It's it's good stuff. Yeah, I really like the way that they're drawn, but yet, like, again, I don't want to knock on the colorist, but like, shit, it's so difficult sometimes. Even when like the scavenger introduced, it's so hard to tell them all apart.
Well, instead of them all being red and white, they're all purple and white.
Yeah, it's just but yeah, it's a good issue. But I also do love how the DJD bots are drawn. They're so menacing. I love it. They look like if like throwback to like Fall of Cybertron. It's like if I were to make to customize some characters for multiplayer, they look like this. So
yeah, there's a picture of all of them.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Scrolling back now, and then we'll cover the next issue.
Yeah.
And our final issue of this volume. One note I have is that this issue technically takes place after the annual that we're going to read in next volume, but the way the volumes have it, they have this issue in this volume. So we're just going by that order.
Understood.
All right. So More Than Meets the Eye, issue 8. So continuing with the scavengers, again, they're freaking out because the DJD is coming for them. Croc realizes that no one would ever confess anyway to whoever hurt them, and that the DJD seems to kind of make up stuff as they go along. So they have 3 options. They can try talking to them, they can run, or they can fight. They decide to fight, and being scavengers, use what was left behind to help them. So meanwhile, on the Lost Light, we have a scene with Skids and Chrome Dome. Hold on. I have like notes that I just said, so I'm just skipping over those. Skids wants Chrome Dome to help him recover his lost memories. We learned that way back, Skids had left to join a diplomatic mission to get other alien races to support the Autobot cause. At first, he thought having amnesia meant freedom to be whoever he wanted now. But after the events of the annual, he realized he doesn't want to forget the people whose lives he's touched along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Chrome Dome does his thing and discovers that the past year of Skid's memories have been destroyed except for a need to escape. Skids wants him to go deeper, but he refuses. Chrome Dome says he can see the older memories, but it's not something Skids should want to remember. Skid asks about a song that he has stuck in his head. Chrome Dome says he recognizes it, but he hopes Skid never remembers or learns what it means. All right. So back once again to the scavengers to come up with a plan to shock Grimlock awake. They get a call from the DJD and lie and say their target is in Grimlock's pod, but in doing so, learn that Fulcrum is the one who the DJD is really after. As the DJD arrive and open the pod, Grimlock wakes up and punches Tarn in the face. At first, it looks like he's winning, but he quickly becomes tired and starts getting his ass beat. The scavengers realize now would be a good time to run, but are cut off by the DJD. Now surrounded, Flywheels is grabbed and shredded head first. Croc is forced to wear Voss's needle face, and in a rescue attempt is shot by Misfire, living up to his name. Speaking of, Misfire is attacked by a Spark Eater dog, and Crankcase is knocked to the ground as Fulcrum watches in horror. We also see Tarn is still fighting Grimlock, and Fletcher, if you would take it away once again.
Oh wait, could I go back? Could you go back one thing? There's one thing I want to say first.
All right.
Where my face? Thank you.
Okay.
It won't surprise you to learn that I've read Banzai-tron's files on each and every Decepticon. That's every Decepticon ever. From the most decorated member of the Conclave to the lowest energon-shoveling petty officer. I rank them, you see. In my head, I arrange them accordingly.
I think you're going to need to up your volume a little bit there.
Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
I rank them, you see. In my head, I arrange them according to their strength, their intelligence, their loyalty, their order of importance. At the top, Megatron, our founder, the Tarnian who dared to ask questions, and at the bottom, well, here's the thing. I don't know how you've managed it. I sincerely don't know how you've managed it. But you seem to have joined forces with the 6 biggest failures of all time.
Yeah. Thank you again for reading that.
Yeah.
So after this happens, just when all hope seems lost, Crankcase shows up in a mech suit that he found and calls the Mighty Mega Puncher. This stops Tarn momentarily, but the mech is then quickly taken down. However, Fulcrum then calls for the DJD's attention and gives them a speech whether they want to listen to it or not. He basically says that the DJD suck and that it's people like the scavengers who restored his faith in Decepticon cause and who fought for him when they shouldn't have. So to save his newfound friends, he jumps at the DJD and turns into a bomb. However, he doesn't explode, and the DJD leaves after learning that they found Overlord's energy signal, who's higher ranking on the list. But don't worry, everyone who's still alive there has also earned a place on their list now.
Right.
Oh my god. So funny.
So now that the DJD are gone, Fulcrum learns the reason he didn't explode was because the scavengers removed his charge when they first found him. We also get his tragic backstory that he was a coward who ran from an Autobot attack and as punishment was turned into a nuke. So once he jumped, he was supposed to automatically switch to bomb mode, but he survived by being paralyzed by fear, hence why he was on the list for living. The team also learns Grimlock was pretty much fighting on instinct and otherwise and is severely brain damaged, but they decide to bring him along because, quote, if the Autobots won, maybe we get forgiven or exonerated, and if the cons we've captured one of their most powerful Autobots. So they head back to their ship onto new adventures, but not before raiding what's left of Flywheel's corpse first.
Oh God, these guys.
And then to end the issue, 18 months later, we see a mysterious bot, possibly the Necrobot, record Flywheel's name, end of the issue, and end of volume 2.
This issue is good. I like this issue. I love Grimlock. That's all I'm gonna say. I love Grimlock.
Yeah, I don't know the Scavengers as well. Obviously, that's a character we've been following for the six issues before this, and so I didn't connect as much to the story off the bat. But obviously, it's just I guess how it's going to work. I ended up really liking them. They don't feel as distinct to me as the Autobots we're following, but I guess they're fun. I think they're a lot of fun, and the story was fun. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, they're more of a subplot that pops in occasionally than anything you have to follow closely.
Mm-hmm. I do like the concept of like a Grim Reaper, like Decepticon, or like Cybertronian that just like records like all the deaths of everyone that dies. I guess I think that's really cool. That's a cool concept. And like how we see it here. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because is that what's going on here? Chrome Dome, Drift, and Ultra Magnus are all on that list, and none of them are is 18 months later.
Yeah.
You look a little nervous there.
Oh, wait a minute. I didn't even catch that too. No. My boy's not going to die.
I guess you'll have to keep reading to see what happens.
Oh my God.
I didn't even realize that. No.
Maybe he'll suffer the same fate that Voss used.
No.
I'm not even worried about Drift. I know y'all like Drift. Drift's cool. Ultra Magnus is my man.
I told you I love Ultra Magnus.
I love him. He's so great.
He's also
so
great.
Sweet.
But he's no Drift.
in his own Ultra Magnus way. I hope he's all right.
Like I said, you'll have to keep reading.
I guess so.
Speaking of which, let me go back here. So next episode, we're going to be covering the annual and issues 9 through 11 of More Than Meets the Eye. Streaming Monday, October 3rd, 2022. Hopefully at 7 p.m.
Nah.
It's probably going to be sometime between 7 and 8. Just how the way things are going.
Yeah.
That's a cool cover though. I like that cover. Very colorful.
Kind of sick. Yep.
You can actually tell them apart, which is great. Yeah, good stuff. I'm excited. I like this one a lot. I'm excited. But yeah. So you want to do like a final thoughts for the whole thing? Is that the move?
Sure.
Word. All right, because I already have that prepared. I'll say this. This volume I like this one a lot more than the last one. It's because again, stuff is picking up and stuff is going on. I love it. I think the highlight of it is the comedy. The comedy is this book is. I didn't expect the Transformers book to be this funny. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, there's some good jokes in this one. It's not like funny all the way throughout. Obviously, there's darker moments.
Of course, yeah, like the PTSD nonsense. That's crazy. But yeah, for sure. Definitely loving. I mean, granted, yeah, Matt did say that, like, the tailgate arc was kind of brushed really quickly, but like I did like the fact that they got it. They got it done, and that was nice. Drift again, love Drift. I'll always say that I love Drift. Drift is great. The stuff with Ratchet I thought was, and the Delphi stuff I thought was really interesting, and having as I said, like Ratchet getting a villain, his own villain essentially, and hopefully he comes back. That'd be nice. Yeah, Dinobots. Again, love Grimlock. I'm happy that Grimlock is working with the Four Stooges. That's great. And the fact that he said he's brain dead, which is like I don't know if he said he's brain dead or like he's just not right in the head.
They say brain dead, but I think brain damaged is probably a better term for it.
And that fits with Grimlock. I prefer Grimlock that's stupid because it's just so much more fun. Because that's how he was in Transformers Animated, and I loved that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to what's that. Also, the fact that like we know it's in the basement. Again, very quick. Very quick. I thought it would be more of like a drawn out arc, but I'm looking forward to seeing what Overlord is gonna do in the
I'll
other.
say this: we know he's in there. We don't know what he's gonna do just yet.
That's true.
We know one thing he's going to do, and that is absolutely freak the hell out of Fort Max.
Dude, he's gonna like have a panic attack.
It's
gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this volume was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed reading it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything to say that I haven't already said. I'm loving this book. I'm loving this book a lot.
Even though you don't know who anyone is.
Even though I don't know who anyone is. But the characters I do know, I'm really into. I love Rodimus. I love Ultra Magnus. I love Fort Max already, even though he's only been in like 2 issues. He's great. I love him.
He's the Rock. He's the Rock of he's the Dwayne the Rock Johnson of the Transformers books.
Dwayne the Rock Johnson actually voiced a Transformer.
Yes, he did.
But it was never one of the big guys. It was just like a little one.
Well, if they ever adapt this comic in some form or fashion, Dwayne the Rock Johnson should play Fort Max. But yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I'm thoroughly enjoying this book. I'm very, very excited for next episode.
I will say this.
I thought I would. Sorry, go ahead, Mikey.
I will say this is real quick. I kind of didn't notice that like there was a lot of less Rodimus in this volume, which I think is kind of great. Because everything around him was was so much fun. Which I hope. I mean, obviously, like Rodimus is the forefront of this series, but I hope that going forward there are going to be volumes where like everything's not just centered around him and it's centered around everyone else. Yeah, I think it's a lot more fun that way. But
he's still present. It's
he's
cool.
Still present. Yeah,
none of it focused on him, but he's still there. You still see him every once in a while. I love how in both the first 2 stories, the Delphi one and then the one with Fort Max, how Ultra Magnus would kind of just wander in and out of the issues. Like first he was teaching
Tailgate.
Right. At first he was teaching Tailgate, and then he was bullying Swerve. And he wasn't like a key part to either story, but he was a highlight of both. And I loved it.
Yeah.
Ultra Magnus, I guess. Anyway, I'm done.
Also, Swerve. Swerve is great. Swerve is great in this. The fact that he just has a bar is just nice. And the fact that he can't shoot for shit is also nice. I kind of realized this though. Like, and I was gonna talk about it last episode, but I forgot. Like, after reading these, reading both these volumes, I'm like, yo, the Autobots is just one giant, just like frat. It's so great. It's just a fraternity. Basically. That's all it is.
Yeah, it sure is.
And I think one of the things I do enjoy about, or what I've learned about More Than Meets the Eye, is how this theory shows that there are Decepticons who, well, I mean, the Scavengers are pretty cool guys, but then it also shows that there are some Autobots who are massive dicks.
Mm-hmm.
And no spoilers, but that's not even the worst of it from what I've researched.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just out of curiosity, were you able to follow along with this at all, or were you completely lost?
I was able to piece it together. I mean, the thing with... I can usually piece together past properties or past stories easily based on the context. I think I might try and find the first 3 issues whenever I have the chance. But I'm more of just a researcher on the characters rather than the story itself. It's just... Yeah.
Got it.
Fair enough. But yeah, I'm good. I loved this volume. I thought it was so much fun. I can't wait to read the next one.
I wanted to go back and take more notes, but then I was reading it, and because I already took like 100 slides worth of notes just to give this presentation, and I was like, I don't think I have anything left to say here that's not already.
I think you were good with what you had. I don't think you needed anything else. Like it was, you made it. The thing was like, I don't know if Matt could agree with this, but like we said this earlier, that like trying to read out our own was a bit much. But you streamlining it made it a lot easier and cohesive to understand.
Makes you appreciate it a little more.
Yeah. So you were fine. You had no problems with that. So, but yeah. I guess that's it. Should we just close it out then?
I think so.
Yeah, word. All right. So people, thanks for everyone who were watching this or will watch this. We appreciate it. So check out when we do volume 3 in like the next 2 weeks Oh yeah, that's what's gonna happen, right? 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, because that's gonna hopefully more shit pops off, and also expect 2 clips to come out of this podcast this week. I just gotta figure out what clips they're gonna make from this. Also Fletcher, thank you for joining us and reading and performing for us. That was nice. That was so fun. I was like, oh my god, look at him, he's really going for it. That's so dope.
I've been waiting to do that, especially for Tarn for so long.
Yeah, man, we appreciate it. We loved it. So hopefully you'll come back for more to do more Tarn stuff.
Yeah, well, there's also, well, I know this is much later. This is like in the late 40s, but there's one specific character that I want to voice, and he's a pretty scary guy, and I think Rebecca might know who it is because
You can text me the name too, and I'll be like, yeah, I'll hook you up.
oh, I'll do that right now.
All right.
But yeah, what else do I gotta say? Oh, also check out some of the clips we posted of the stuff last week. One was talking about Werewolf by Night, where I commemorated Matt in it, even though Matt hasn't watched it yet, but because he there's a certain character that's in that trailer that shows up, which he loves to death. So
yeah, that sure is.
And also, we did one of just that I dropped 2 days ago on Secret Invasion and why we love seeing a paranoid Nick Fury. I thought that was fun. And also look out for hopefully Sex Criminals Monday, Matt, next Monday.
Yes.
Is that okay? Yeah. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. So we're gonna have basically Transformers and Sex Criminals as the 2 main ongoing series that we're covering on the Indie Corner. So that's gonna be very fun. And yeah, people, that's basically it. Just appreciate the support and all the love. And yeah, man, get home safe. Bye-bye.